Hey everyone, what's going on? Mark here from TST Industries, back in the garage, and behind me I have the Husqvarna 701 Enduro, and in today's video I will be guiding you through the installation process of our TST LED pod turn signals for the front of the 701 Enduro. But this installation process can also be used to install these signals on the 701 Supermoto. All in all, this is a pretty straightforward installation process. Now it is important to note during this installation process, I have and I will show a few different components. But at the core of changing out your front turn signals, all you really need are turn signals of your choice. And as you may know, we have several options available, as well as our plug and play harness adapters that will allow you to have a OEM-like plug and play installation. Now we do have other components and I will highlight them as we go through this installation process, but to give you a quick rundown, we have our running mate and accompanying running light connection kit that will enable you to introduce a running light function to the front turn signals of this motorcycle, in addition to our mounting plates and our accent colored washers that will bring a little bit of pop and color to the front turn signal area on your motorcycle. And as I mentioned, this installation process is very straightforward. 3 bolts will get the job done, and then we can tear these signals off of the bike. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in and begin the installation process. To begin this installation process, we need to remove the 3 bolts that are securing the headlight to the bike. In order to do that, you will use a T27 Torx bit, and the 3 bolts are located here, right above the turn signal here, and in this same location on the opposite side of the bike. We'll grab our Torx bit and begin removing these bolts. You do want to be careful removing these bolts. They are shoulder bolts. They have a shoulder washer on them. So please ensure you're removing all the hardware. And now with the 3 bolts removed, we can go ahead and route the cables out from this captive holder and gently pry outward and up. Just like that, your headlight is free. Now, in order to not strain the connection going into the main headlight plug, we will disconnect it by pressing down on this locking tab and then gently pulling in an outward fashion towards the front of the bike. Now with the headlight removed, we can toss it to the side. And as you can see here, we have full access to the turn signals, their mounting hardware, and the connectors. Now it is important to note that this model motorcycle is a local rider's that does have an extra GPS unit located on their handlebars. So a lot of this wiring up here is actually used for that. From the factory, you may not have this much wiring or any of this wiring at all other than some of these main components. So just keep that in mind. This may look a little different from your application, but the methodology is still going to be the same. Now, with full access to behind the headlight unit, we're first going to disconnect our turn signals. These smaller white connectors, 2-position white connectors, each having a black and brown wire, are the turn signal connectors on this model. And we will gently pry outward, and as you can see, we have now freed this. And again, some of this wiring is modified from the owner of this motorcycle. I cannot say for certain that this connector is located from the factory within this zip tie, and for that reason, I'm not going to cut it. But with it disconnected, we can now grab a 13mm wrench and remove the nut, locking the signal in place. And once you break it free, you can remove it by hand. Gently pull outward. And when you get to the very end, please be careful, ensuring that you're removing the nut and the 2 washers, and then carefully routing the signal out of its holding geometry. Now, as I mentioned, all you really need for this installation are some turn signals and our plug and play harness adapters. And if you have both of those items, and they are a 2-wire signal like our BL6 signals, you should be able to connect the ground wire from your signals to the black wire in our converter. So on our signals, this is going to be black to black. And then the power wire from your signals to the power wire on our converters, which in this case is yellow to yellow. And we will sheathe these connections, cover them up with the rubber insulators. And now, if I connect this like so, turn the bike on and activate a signal, you will see here that we do have a functioning turn signal. But this is only the case if you are only using the turn signals and they are a 2-wire signal. If you have a 3-wire signal or a multi-wire signal like our Quadrix signals, you will notice that the colors are different and you have a 3rd wire. We're going to go over this as we are actually going to install these signals for the local rider. But before I do that, I want to highlight if you would like to introduce a running light circuit onto your motorcycle. Now, as we discussed, by default, this is a 2-wire system, meaning there are no running lights on your front signals by default. So what you will want to do is bridge our TST running mate into the connection between these signals and our harness adapters. We'll disconnect the signals. The bike is powered off while you do this. And now we will connect our signals to our running mate in the same fashion, yellow to yellow and black to black. And you're going to isolate those connectors. And then connecting to your bike or the harness adapter, you will go black to red and yellow to brown. Now this alone will not introduce the running light circuit. However, if we go to test our signals, you can see we do have a functioning turn signal. So at this point, you would go ahead and use our 12-volt running light connection kit and tap into the blue wire on our running mate. Now, lucky for you, I have a test wire that we use internally. So to just visualize this for our viewers out there, I'm not going to actually proceed with this just yet, but I will show you what the running mate will enable your bike to have. So we'll connect blue to blue from our running light connection kit to the running mate, cover the connectors, and now you will want to splice into the yellow wire on the headlight connector on the bike side of the connection. So again, if you're looking at your headlight connection, you'll have a square 4-position connector. On the bike's side of the harness, you will have a yellow wire. And if I introduce this wire here and power the bike on, you will see that we now have a functioning running light. And it is operating at 80% brightness, and when we go to activate our signal, we have a fully functioning and 100% brightness turn signal. When you cancel out your signal, you still have a running light function. So we are going to do that with our Quadrix turn signals. However, I wanted to visualize this for you viewers out there who may have a 2-wire signal like our BL6 turn signals, our Echo turn signals, or just some basic pod or flush mount style turn signals, or any other signals on the market. If you are using our running mate, that is how you would connect it. You would splice into the yellow wire on the headlight connection. But again, for this purpose, we are not using these signals and we will not be using the running mate. So with your bike powered down, you will go ahead and disconnect all of this equipment, and we can leave our harness converters connected and actually grab our turn signals. Now, if you buy these turn signals, as I mentioned, we have a few different optional accessories. But if you don't want any of those accessories, you can simply remove the locking nut and the washer from these turn signals And you would simply mount these to the front hole on the signal mounting plastic, on the signal mounting shroud, tighten them down, and then proceed with the connection. But again, for this rider, we are doing something that they specifically asked for. So now we will introduce our mounting adapter plates. Now, I'm gonna try and show this as well as possible using the opposite turn signal. Let's go ahead and disconnect this. But as you can see, after removing your OEM turn signal, you actually have two holes located on the signal mounting shroud. And if you're using any pod style turn signal, including ours, most of them will have an 8mm threaded stud, and they will not cover the entirety of both holes. And as you can see here, I will again visualize this for you. But you can see here it covers the first hole, but if you look carefully, that back hole is still exposed. Doesn't really serve any purpose, and it doesn't do any harm leaving it open. But if you are a rider like myself who you want a really clean installation, you may want to, and you may be encouraged to use our adapter plates. And what this does when oriented in a vertical fashion is just provides a cleaner finished look, covering up that secondary hole on the back. Just like so. In addition to that, we also have our accent washers. Now, we have several colored options available for these to pair with the actual washers, but you would end up with a look like this, where the signal is actually mounted onto a base that has a colored accent. So now, instead of the signal just being on your bare bones signal shroud, you have it on a clean washer that covers up both holes, and you introduce a little bit of a color pop with whatever color option you choose for. So again, these are optional items. We have everything on our website in a modular fashion. You are only stuck paying for what you intend to purchase and what you need. We don't force you to buy things you may not want or may not need. So please be sure to read through our product pages carefully and fully understand what you are purchasing. Now again, for this rider, this is the setup they would like. So we are going to go ahead and install it. We will first route the wires through here. We will grab the washer and nut that we removed from the turn signals. Washer first. Then we have our locking nut. And with that same 13mm wrench that we removed the stock turn signals with, we will use that to tighten down this locking nut. Now, as always, I kind of have a cardinal rule here if you're new around this channel, where I always recommend and highlight that you should start threading components by hand. That includes nuts and bolts to ensure you are not cross-threading and setting yourself up for failure. So you can see just like that, we have it set up in a way where the turn signal is mounted and facing forward. The washer is covering both holes in a vertical fashion, just like that. And we have our colored accent washer at the base of the signal. And I'll turn this now so you can actually see what it looks like from the front. And it is important to note on this bike, these signals do sit inboard quite a bit. Now, as you can see, when you grab your headlight and with these cables routed correctly, you will see that it does actually obscure a little bit of the signal mounting area. So as you're purchasing aftermarket turn signals and beginning to modify your bike, keep this in mind. These little nuances may affect the finished look that you were trying to achieve. Obviously, once you turn the bike, you can still see the base and everything. It's really clean. And on this side, it's not so much of an issue because you don't have this captive holder for these brake lines. But again, just little things to note that we like to highlight for the viewers out there who are interested in these parts. Now, we do have our signal routed here, loosely secured. And if we are not using the running light function at this point, we can go ahead and connect our harness adapter. On this setup, it would be black to red, yellow to brown. Of course, you always cover your connectors prior to testing. And you would leave the blue wire disconnected. Turn the bike on, activate your signal. Oh, wrong signal side, sorry. And you can see here we do have a sequential turn signal function. At this point, if you're not interested in incorporating or introducing the running light function, you can button this up, secure these connections with some additional electrical tape, tuck it all away, and finalize the reassembly process. But again, this rider wants something a little unique, so we are going to go ahead and at this point, grab our running light connection kit. We're going to cut it in half. And then realistically, we don't need this length of wire. So I'm going to cut off quite a bit of it. And then we will expose a little bit of wire on the opposite end of the bullet connector. And now what we can do is actually connect our blue light, our blue wire, our running light connection kit to the blue wire on the Quadrix turn signals. So if I do that here, cover up the bullet connectors. And as I mentioned earlier, we will need to tap into the yellow wire on this headlight connection. We are going to expose a little bit more of the wire on this main connection. So we will use some scissors and carefully cut some of the sheathing off, making sure that we are not piercing any of the wires. Once you have about an inch of the wire of the sheathing off, you will see here that we now have a lot more access to the wires going into this connector. At this point, we will grab the included posse tap connector with our running light connection kit. And we will take the upper portion, the larger cap. We will remove it from the assembly. We will place it over this yellow wire, like so. Snap the body element onto the cap. And then we will remove the lower cap, so the smaller cap at the bottom. And now with the exposed amount of the blue connection, the running light connection wire, we will feed it through the bottom cap. And as you can see here, if you can see that a little bit of the raw wire element is poking through, we can go ahead and push that and screw the cap back on. And now, in theory, we should have a functioning running light operating at 80% brightness, just like we explained and showed with our BL6 turn signals, but we are not using the running mate function. And that is because these turn signals do have a built-in running light circuit with the blue wire. Turn this off, power the bike down. And now we will repeat these steps on the opposite side. Now with this turn signal wired correctly and all of our bullet connectors covered sufficiently, we can test, and we do have functioning turn signals, both with running light functions and At this point, this installation is complete, but we need to go ahead and clean this up. So you can excuse me, you can fast forward this if you'd like. I'm going to use some electrical tape, add in some additional security by isolating each of these bullet connectors independently, create a nice wire loom bundle, and then go ahead and tuck all these wires away. Now, it is important to note, if you notice, we have our fender eliminator and integrated taillight installed on the rear, and on the front, we do have our turn signals. Because of the LED technology, you are seeing a faster than normal flash rate. There may be instances where your signals just stay on all the time or do not flash at all. With the help of our plug and play LED flasher relay, you can remedy that issue. It is, as I mentioned, completely plug and play, and it's actually located right in this post. So you would slip off the OEM relay, disconnect it, plug ours in, and you'd be all good to go. We will have a separate video showing that process, but if you're already here and you've already purchased our relay, it's right there. It's the only relay located behind this headlight, and it is located on the bottom of this post with the 2-pin connector going into this. And as you can see here, I've isolated one connector. And while one of them is fully covered and sealed, I will bundle that to the second connector I find, isolate that one, and then tape all three together. That is multiple layers of security and peace of mind that we always encourage. Now we have a nice bundle of wires that we can tuck away on this particular signal connection. When it comes to wire routing, it really will determine on how you prefer to have things. Being that we're working in a tight space due to all of these wires up here, I'm doing my best. I'm not going to use any zip ties or anything. Leave it like that. And now at this point, we can go ahead, and before we actually put the headlight on, there's one more thing we need to do, and it is tighten down our signals using a tool. Grabbing a 13mm box wrench will suffice. We're going to clamp down to where you cannot spin these freely. Now we can go ahead and reconnect the headlight. Before we button this up, let's test our functions. We have headlight and running lights. We have active turn signals. High beams still work as intended and have no effect on your turn signal functions. So this was a success. Now let's go ahead and reinstall everything. First things first, there are two posts located at the bottom of the headlight shroud that need to go onto the receiving posts on the front fender. So what I like to do is start there. And with that laid out and set up for success, you want to make sure at this point the shrouds are going on the interface of the entire assembly. Now I apologize for getting in the camera. Route the cables. Now we will grab one of our bolts. And oh, I can see here I inserted this incorrectly. Now with our T27 Torx bit in hand and the appropriate hardware, we can begin reinstalling the screws to secure the headlight to the motorcycle. And you may need to gently apply some pressure, pushing the headlight towards the rear of the motorcycle to ensure that your holes all line up, all the mounting points. And with everything hand threaded we can go ahead and use a tool, bottom out, and then go another 1/16 to 1/8 of a turn. You don't want to over tighten these. So again, once you bottom out, you'll feel some friction. Go about another 1/16 of a turn. And one final check before we call it a day. There you are. Just like that, this installation is now complete. And as you can see, we've really cleaned up the front end of this Husky 701. And best of all, we have had a plug and play installation process and introduced some improved functions like a running light function and sequential turn signals. So if you found this helpful, you want to buy this product or any of our other pod turn signals, or you may be interested in what else we have available for either the Husky 701 or any other bike that may be in your garage, please visit our website, tstindustries.com. The link can be found in the description below. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you just want to say, hey, let us know where you're watching from, please feel encouraged to do so in the comment field below. We'd love to hear from you. If you found this video helpful, give us a thumbs up. That lets us know we're doing a good job and that we should keep filming these styles of installation videos. And of course, we always recommend following us on social media to stay up to date with all the latest and greatest things we've got going on here at TST Industries. Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter, all username TST Industries. For now, this has been Mark in the TST Garage, and we will catch you next time. Ride safe.